Finance and Revenue Committee meeting to order. So, we're going to find minutes. Item number 2 is comments and suggestions petitions by residents and opinions regarding items not on the agenda. All right, seeing none, we're good for item 3A, which is our August financials.
Good evening. Moving over to page 2 for the month of August 31st, 2022. Sorry, if you go to one more page, Jeff, yeah, right there. We started the month with $16,194,411 in cash. We brought in $3,781,362. We spent or transferred out $3,033,011. This left us with an ending cash balance of $16,942,762. Of this amount, $9,348,451 is for restricted purposes. Moving over to page 3, the schedule of the interfund activity. We continue to reconcile each month all of the interfund activity and transfer those amounts each month and try to pay down past balances as we can. As you can see, we started the month with $9,791,776, and we ended with $9,598,022. So we are making headway on bringing those balances down. Moving over to the rest of the budget to actual report for the month ended August 31st. We had actual revenues of $25,633,044. This is offset by actual expense of $20,296,158. This leaves us with a positive position of $5,336,886. Of this amount, $4,285,000 is attributable to the general fund. Looking at the statements as a whole, at this point in time, we would expect most line items to have about 33% left in their budgets. On the revenue side, we continue to see both EIT and real estate taxes doing well. We also are seeing building, electrical, plumbing, and mechanical doing well as parking revenue, both in the ordinance violations and the parking garage revenues. Looking at the prior real estate taxes balance, this is actually over budget at this point in time. This is due to the $103,000 that we received from the county for their 2021 unpaid real estate taxes for their property at 313 West Market Street. We do continue to see violation of ordinances, police alarms, and restitution are not quite meeting budget at this point in time. We will continue to monitor them and see what we can do by year end. One of the biggest items in the general fund revenue, the D transfer, we had a budget of $850,000. We are only at about $443,000. So at this point in time, we are seeing a downward trend in home sales. So this line item may or not meet budget by year end. Looking at the sewer fund, we are seeing the monthly sewer rentals are starting to come, meeting better expectations at this point in time, but we are still seeing the tap-in fees are not quite where we thought they would be. The budget was $370,000 and we're only about $80K through August 31st. So this line item is most likely not going to meet budget, and we will need to continue to monitor both revenues and make sure that cash flow is sufficient to meet the expenses within the fund. Looking on the expense side, we still see legal other in admin, parking, and civil service line item is over budget due to continued legal proceedings. Our advertising budget in the general fund under admin is over budget due to increased cost for employment recruiting. This has been an across the board problem for all departments. Fuel expense continues to remain high and is exceeding budget in admin, wastewater, and public works. The boards and commissions line item in the admin fund appears as though it is overspent, but the line item does include the railroad study, which we did get a partial grant from the county for $12,000, which we actually received this week. The police payout line item for retirements is over budget by $27,000. This is for a payout to a retired officer as well as a payout for a voluntary resignation. Equipment repair in the public works line item is coming very close to budget. This is because there's been a increased repairs that have needed to not be done in-house and needed to go out for certain repairs. And we also see in the fire fund that the equipment repair line item is over budget. This is due to those large vehicles that they need to go be outsourced for a lot of those repairs that cannot be done in-house. And finally, the transfer to capital. I know I say this every month, but I just want to make sure that everyone is well aware that this line item included the ARPA funds to pay for the street sweeper. Are there any questions?
You mentioned the ongoing legal fees. What, Sean and Barb, can you elaborate on that?
So these are legal fees in the other legal line item. I believe the budget was $20,000. And the budget was $20,000 and we're up to $73,296. And that's for payments that are made to the law firm that had to do with the vaccination policy.
And in addition, you costs that we're having are expenses for contract negotiation or engagement. Council. So yes, bulk of that number is generating litigation. Or lower costs for us. Negotiations. We have one more bargaining session.
Yeah, another, I guess, question I'm having would be, as we're going through our, is our timeline for that? With updating that expectation for next year. And going to set a number first and then
that I understand where you're going with how the rates impact our budget. So in that regard, yeah, you want to make a decision before we adopt the final budget.
So just to answer the sort of metric, so we should have the biggest cost would be the new solicitor. So we should have that pretty well wrapped up and put in the year. Thank you.
thank you very much. All right. 3B is our 2023 budget.
So the admin department consists of the borough manager's office as well as the finance department. There's 4 employees in the borough manager's office, and there's also 4 employees in the finance department. Within the admin department, we have the borough manager, the HR director, the data manager, and the executive assistant. This department is responsible for executing and enforcing borough ordinances and carrying out the orders of the borough council. The finance department, including myself, 2 staff accountants, and 1 bookkeeper, is responsible for maintaining the receipts and expenditures of the borough. If you could scroll down, please. Scroll down. 1 more, please. And then 1 more. So looking at the budget as a whole, starting with the revenues in the admin department account for the majority of the services that the borough provides, that being police, public works, IT, and recreation. This budget that you have before you tonight, under real estate taxes, does not include any increase to that line item. When you look at the line item, if you scroll down to the next page for real estate taxes, you will see a slight increase there. And the biggest reason being there, last year when we calculated real estate taxes, we assumed that when the taxes were paid at face value, that we deducted the 2% for that. We've since increased that number to 1.8%. So that brought, the amount that we'll be bringing in for 2023 based on a 7.70 millage rate to be slightly higher than what we collected last year. Looking at the other big line items in the budget, EIT. This line item includes the 1% that is paid by both residents and non-residents, and it also includes the 0.25 that is assessed to the residents of the borough for the EIT pension liability pay down. We feel confident that we can increase this line item by $400,000. This is based on past trends in collections as well as what we're seeing currently within the numbers that we see through 8/31/2022. Sorry, just need to find this here. It is our intention to use the money that is brought in from the 0.25 to pay down the MNOs that are currently in place for 2023. One thing I did not mention about real estate taxes, I did want to let everyone know that the assessed value for 2022, the assessed taxable property value is $757,594.25. And we also have a non-taxable assessed property value that we cannot collect on in the borough, and that number is $414,685.590. Looking at the de-transfer tax, as I just went through when I talked about the budget to actual, we are going to be decreasing this line item in 2023. It was at $850. We're going to bring it down to $670. We think that's a more realistic number based on the downward trend in home sales and based on what our collections are through 8/31. The other big line item in this budget is the PHMIC refund. This is the refund that we received from the health insurance company. It's based on prior year claims within the self-insured fund that we have. We are going to increase this for 2023. We feel confident that we will bring in at least $400,000. We are well above that through 8/31, and we haven't heard from the broker that that number is a good number going into 2023. Looking at the transfers from the various funds, the parking fund is going to, the transfer from the parking fund to the general fund. It was 1.7 for 2022. We are confident that we can increase that to $2 million. That's based on increased revenues in the parking fund and the stabilized expenses that are in the parking fund. We will be decreasing the transfer from the sewer fund to the general fund. We did have $1 million budgeted for 2022. We are decreasing that to $750,000 for 2023. The support that we have in hand is just not enough to justify a $1 million transfer. So we believe that the $750,000, based on information in hand, based on salaries through public works as well as administration overhead, is sufficient enough to support a $750,000 transfer. We also will be using $808,500 of ARPA funding. We will be using that to cover all of the general fund capital expenses for the various department line items. Moving over to the expenses, if you could go down one more, please. We have assumed a 3% pay rate increase for non-union employees. We have removed the longevity and the pay rate pool that was in this year's budget. We've removed them and put them in each salary line item that you will see in this budget and all of the other line items for the other departments that were presented last night and this evening. I just wanted to mention, employees that work in the non-union positions do receive reviews, and the merit increases are based on the results of these reviews. We are not anticipating any increases in health insurance costs. We are expecting a slight increase in workers' comp and general insurance. When this budget was prepared, the number that we had received from the broker was around 15%, but it appears as though that number may decrease based on what Mr. Metric talked about earlier this evening. In the HR department, we will be accounting for all of employment recruiting within the HR line item. This past year, we were doing most of those expenses through the various departments. This will give us a better idea of what we're actually spending, and it's easier to account for when it's in one line item. Going back to Mr. Flynn's point and Mr. Allen's point, we did increase the legal fees for this year for the legal other. We are increasing it from 20,000 to 40,000, and this is based on the needs for the police contract that is set to expire in 2023. We do see an increase in the software maintenance line item. This line item, this increase is for the additional needs of the GIS position and what those needs are. And there's one other big line item that was not in the 2022 budget, and that's the transfer to stream protection. We are allocating $60,000 to pay down the borough-owned properties for their stream protection accounts. I know that's a lot of information. Is there any questions?
Got it. Thank you. And just remember, feel free to join in because you may be able to shed some light on these things. The budget that Barbara presented did not have the new hires and new employees, correct?
This is admin only.
Right.
There's no new requests for employees within the admin or the finance department.
Okay.
The new employee requests are in the housing department and I believe recreation. So
Yeah, what we were told is we need to hire a marketing director.
correct.
Okay, so that's one. And the code enforcement person, that's two. And Parks and Rec director willing to have a full-time employee, which I do not support. I believe that position could be a part-time position, in my opinion, at 20 hours a week with no benefits, with a couple of interns from the university. In the season, that's my opinion, because what he does is very seasonal. Most of his events are quarterly. Then, of course, as the warmer weather kicks in, he has a new direction to do it in the parks now. Mr. Evans down there. The saying he can't have any employees, I think that's wrong. But I think, if you come from doing it himself, you could probably give him a part-time employee. And he also talked last night about a couple interns from the university, $15 an hour. Big nut there is the longevity and health insurance. As far as that department is concerned. So if you had those in, you probably would be out of balance. Right?
If I just may add, longevity only applies to non-union employees that are here over 5 years. So that would not necessarily apply to a new position. It would apply to the director though.
Okay.
I can say at this point in time, the overall budget, we do have some work on massaging some of these line items. As we talked about last night, we do have some increases that we need to put back in for the utilities. So, and, also addressing the issue of additional employees. So it may add to the budget not being in balance, but that's the work that Mr. Metric and I will make sure that we put in some good hard work and make sure that we get these line items within reason.
Well, it's okay to be out of balance. There's a consequence for being out of balance. But if we need certain positions and certain staffs, you know, that's important to make sure that we serve the public. You know, there needs to be the borough. Can't always have a word tight belt all the time. The other question I had was, our auditor has mentioned numerous times about writing off the sewer transfer that was done by Mr. Cotter back about 6 years ago. Does that factor into anywhere of this much as writing something off?
So that's a balance sheet line item, due to any from a receivable between funds. That would go more into your cash position, so you would have a better cash position, but it would also affect your bottom line when the financials are prepared by the auditors. But to answer your question, no, there is no additional revenues for that. But it is something that, as a committee, we need to discuss what we feel the need going forward.
Yeah, that was Mr. Allen thing was two of the throws, but they're trying to get that under control during the year. And that's given us a red eye for 2-3 years now.
Correct.
And again, my humble opinion is we can't keep kicking the damn thing down the road. If we got to break the ball and get rid of it, be done with it, you know, because it doesn't look well in the auditor tells us. I don't know where it fits in the system. I understand too, but should probably do that. Thank you. That's all I have.
Yes, if we could go back to the slide regarding the data manager, those previous years did not have it.
Correct.
And then what is the role of the data manager?
If you could scroll up. If you could go up one more. So the data manager supervises the data systems, and they compile information that all of the departments are able to use to you know, continue their ongoing operations. I know that's probably not the best job, you know, description that you're looking for, but do you have anything more that I can add to that?
I think you're on the right track. Can you, first slide? There's a comp, there's a slide on the right. There you go. In 21 and 22, a system that was created. See it on, I don't see it on the way this. That's the position that I was hired. So I worked with around last year. This year's budget, we have flexibility. But I think that's exactly the job description that we're looking for, what the organization needs at this point in time. Somebody who really understands data architecture, so land records, all the information that we have, so that we only going forward. Right now, our information has been scattered in software services. One was the big center around which data. So I made that decision last year to bring somebody with skills and proportions. Honestly, we actually had a less expansive view of the it's a real deep understanding of data architecture. We're already using it in our apartment. analysis of utilization. Sort transaction by location. Create a lot more visibility. So that's the reason. So I think what this chart probably needs is to make it clear, like this is management, executive management, one thing will parse out some of that. Williams includes this taken. Planning. Don't think we need this.
Thank you for the definition. Just another quick question. Does the recovery act money, is that going to be included? When are we going to be, if or when do we receive that second portion, second tranche?
So we do currently have $808,000 that we are accounting for in this budget of ARPA funding. We have not received that second payment. We are expecting to receive another $1 million payment. So that we currently have about $500,000 left of ARPA, and then the 1 million will bring us up to 1.5, then subtract out the 800. So we would have about $700,000 in ARPA funding left.
Thank you.
Great, and then mine were more on that revenue slide, that's what being said. Necessarily the same, but just in terms of parking, that revenue increase, you talked about that briefly, but can you talk me through again, just like the mechanics of how that number is going up as much as it is?
So we had 1.7 budgeted for 2022. In 2023, based on the assumptions and what we feel are the projections at this point in time, we believe that the increased revenues that we will be seeing in the parking fund, as well as the majority of their expenses remaining stabilized, we believe we have justification to transfer $2 million. And that is also, we are able to transfer from the parking fund versus where we can't necessarily do that from the sewer fund because it is a utility related. So that increased $2 million, and then the drop in the sewer fund that kind of offsets that not getting as much in the sewer fund.
That makes sense. So yeah, that was my next question. It's about basically the same question for the sewer fund.
So currently, past practice was to transfer $1 million sewer into the general fund. We have gone through an exercise trying to account for all of those dollars that make up that $1 million number. The majority of it is, overhead for the finance department, for processing payroll, for any phone calls that we take for sewer related items. It's also overhead for, administration, things that they're dealing with. It also takes into account when you have public works employees that are working on any of sewer related, work that they have to do. And based on the information that we have on hand, feel that we do not have that justification right now for $1 million. And we believe, $750,000 at this point in time is closer to what we have. So we felt that, it was right to make sure that we budget what we can properly account for.
And then I know we've struggled with some of our line items in the sewer fund side this year. So I'm definitely interested to see that deal. My question really, are we anticipating budgeting for less revenue for the sewer fund overall?
So I don't think, probably didn't make it very clear last night, but in the sewer fund, we have decreased some of the revenues just based on, current year collections and some things that were put in the 2022 budget that may have been done a bit prematurely. that should have maybe, been sparsed out closer to either mid-year or through 2023. So we have made, those pullbacks, and especially the monthly sewer billings. I think we've got a better number for that, as well as the tap-in fees. The tap-in fees are, about $100,000 lower than what is in the 2022 budget. And again, that's based on the assumption that we'll see about half of the Rubenstein's building, the EDUs go into effect for that. So,
And our updated capital convert is stated that as well.
well, they have been grandfathered into the lower 2032 number.
And then, so just for the change year over year for sewer, revenue, is there like an number that we have?
23 budget for total. Projected at 5. About 7% decrease in power size. Pulled out on monthly sewer revenue because that's been spent this time. The middle ground of the tap will be buildings that go up. That for budget purposes. Might see some upside on the industrial discharge permit. Davis oil side.
And my, yeah. So that number was like 400. We're doing 250 less for transfer. So are we looking at 150K less? Is that, I'm going with this? Because in my mind, I saw and maybe we can talk about this next month, but the $250,000 for something. Super fun. Right now. So it doesn't sound like that's going to be the event. Just looking at the data.
And if you're looking at the budget, is it predicted? So that's something I like to do. So I like to get 5% expenditures, but I like to just add.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Questions?
Sorry, Mark, since the electricity bill was pulled last night, when we walked quite a bit of money because of the economy. Paying out this year. Did we make adjustments in our utility line then? 7%.
We did in some of our apartments.
Yeah, but that's going to be, it's like gasoline, it's going to be extremely volatile.
For item 3C, which is to discuss the uptown hour home instead.
I'll be more than happy to jump in on this one. The only thing I know is what was written in front of me. 5 years ago, we let the uptown center $200,000 with a 20-year note. The first 5 years, they didn't have to make any principal payments or any interest payments. At the fifth year, they were supposed to start making monthly payments plus interest at 3%, which is roughly about 25,000 a year. The request to forgive the loan is trying to come up ridiculous. I can't come up with another word. It's freaking ridiculous. That money that we let the Uptown Theater has to come back to the borough. So we can re-lend it to other people. They apply for those type of loans. It takes a lot of guts, an organization to ask for a forgiveness of $200,000. When I talked to some people on the street about it, they said, well, the theater has brought in revenues for restaurants, the borough, and bars. Can't qualify that, can't quantify it, can't do anything about it. The borough, with good conscience, lent the Uptown Theater for $200,000. Certainly never can do start paying in 5 years at 3% interest. I always thought it was at the wrong date. I thought it was April Fool's Day. If somebody asked us to write off $200,000. What I can tell you, library paid back every dime that we lived in. What? The medical center paid back the money we lent them when they were having sewer problems inside the building. And these people had to call to come and ask the borough to write off $200,000. Once we receive the money back, we can re-lend it other nonprofits in the borough to bring a bigger reward to the borough by using those funds. We've also lent money to entrepreneurs in the borough. God rest his soul, Jack McFadden. He borrowed $85,000. Paid back every dime. But the fact of the matter is, I guess I can't be much more passionate about the fact that it's ridiculous that we let an organization money with it. Now they want to sleep. So, that's my matter. I'm passionate about it.
So we're gonna see that.
So Bernie, do you think this is ridiculous?
It's freaking ridiculous.
I hear you. Just the correction, so it would be roughly 225,000, including the interest. I know that either they raise money, they're able to raise money. So raise money. It's not gonna-
Yeah, I'd love to see this continue. That's any other public comment?
Yes, the committee is to the work session next week for some of the discussion. Staff. Authorize what we're supposed to do. It wasn't clear to me the documentation. How it had been set up, what the intentions were, we'll continue to do that research. Direction from council next week is to borough management to set up a revolving loan fund. These types of recipients for these. That's about that. If that's the will of all council.
So just to be clear, we asked for the on the agenda or work session agenda to formally set up a Revolving loan fund. Yeah.
I just wanted to add one point. This money came from a Keystone Communities Program grant where the money, you borrowed the money and then it was lent out. Essentially should be reinvested back in. So I just wanted to add that that's where the initial, it didn't come from, the capital reserve or anything like that, but I just wanted to make that point there.
There's also an ordinance that council approved to lend money to the farmers. And that was brought on by our civil students and by Mr. U-Dag, who was the treasurer of the organization at that time. I don't know, still treasurer. Thank you very much.
Great. Any others?
Yes. So, is that what we do?
As far as I know, we can do it. The borough has been used getting grants and lending it to people from the borough. For my time on council, which is 5 years ago, I believe Jack McFadden borrowed his money probably, yes, probably 2015. And it comes from the grants that we get, and the borough has to borrow it. I'm going to explain that a bit more so the mayor understands the way that would. Yeah.
If we grant, then we can put it in.
Yeah. And then we rewrite it out to other people, so they can actually approve size for businesses.
So this particular grant, we received this through the Keystone program, which is a part of the BCED. And this program, was to lend money for, for communities that want to reinvest in their local businesses. There's a whole sort of documentation that you can follow. And we applied for this grant back in, I believe it was 2017. So we applied for this grant, we lent the money out to the Uptown, and we issued a promissory note that money would be paid back in 5 years. Now, as part of that promissory note, the theater did have the option to make principal or interest payments. They were optional as per the terms of the agreement, which they did not do. But essentially, this money was supposed to, repayments were supposed to begin in July of 2022. Now, what Bernie's speaking of in regards to Mr. McFadden, that was a different program that was in place at the time. We call that the U-Dag Loan, which is, I believe, stands for Urban Development Action Grant, which is, something similar along the terms of what this communities program grant was for. And that money was paid back in full.
That's the DCD, that's the Department of Economic Development.
They started the repayment, and so what do we tell?
Correct. So as per the terms of this note, they had the option to make principal and interest payments. They have not. Repayments on this were supposed to begin in July of 2022. At this point in time, we have not received anything on that.
And so if they were to pay back, they would pay.
Correct. So as of 12/31/2021, we have a notes receivable on our financial statements in the amount of $200,000 plus an accrued interest receivable of $25,000. And that $25,000 obviously would be slightly higher because that was through 12/30/2021. We're now September 3rd, so it would be around $29,000 in interest that would be payable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I knew my wife calls them continuous. That's where I trade sometimes, but 20 years, hopefully, I'll be letting St. Peter Paul Cemetery. But I'll be 70, 90 years old.
90.
God bless me, God bless me.
So don't count.
He's had a good life, he's had a good life.
Still talking about
Yeah. But what I'm reaching at is that here, 20 years from now, people that are sitting up here may have a bigger heart than I do. And they may tell the uptown theater that they can forgive the interest, but on the loan, it's 2%. I'm still alive, you hear my voice in the background. But anyway, the fact of the matter is that that's 20 years from now. So, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, any other questions or comments? This agenda item. All right, cool. We're now going to move on to 3D, which is to discuss supporting the Westchester area.
What do you ask for one of you?
Let's go ahead, Matt. Okay, thank you, council members. So I'm Jim Wiley. I am a resident of the borough of West Lafayette Street. I am the Sustainability Committee's vice chair. Thank you. So I'm also the representative to the Westchester Area Clean Energy Future Community Engagement Team, which, as you know, was spawned 2 years ago. Been humming along. We meet every Friday, every week. We have for 2 years. We have used zero budget to this date. And we take our jobs very seriously, our mission very seriously. Next slide, please. So here's the context. Yep. So the context here is kind of two focuses: municipal government focused and community focused. Clean energy team, clean energy future team is community focused. But I also want to touch on some things today about what the municipalities are doing in the area. Next slide, please. So the centerpiece of what we've done is the website, the clean WCACDF.org. And we've got a lot of great resources on there. We've taken 2 years to research them and put them up there, including a summary of the new federal incentives that are coming to us. We broke things up into 4 sectors, right? Residential, education, big business, and small business. Next slide, please. So going back to the Cadmus study, which kind of started all this, they gave us 19 strategies, and the ones that are highlighted there have been started in some way or another, particularly on the right there, the community engagement piece. So various townships have done different things. The solar PPA, which Bernie mentioned, was a missed opportunity for sure. Next slide, please. So this is kind of a scorecard of what 60 municipalities are doing. There's a lot of different stuff. I don't know if you guys got a chance to look at this. I'm not going to go through them all, but there's a lot of green in the Westchester Borough column. The next slide is the continuation of this. And at the bottom, there's some more things that we could do, more opportunities, particularly the EV and solar ready proposals that I hope you'll be hearing from Kevin real soon. Next slide, please, slide 7. So I'm sure you guys have seen this on the outside of the Chestnut Street Garage. Kudos for Will for crafting this poster and putting it up. This is community engagement. This is great. This is getting in front of everybody. Next slide, please. So the county in this 2 years have done some things too. You can, it's doing its part to develop the climate action plan. It's put together resources for clean energy sightings and other stuff that's on our website. And it's got outreach plans for big energy users like benchmarking and stuff like that. So a lot of discussion 2 years ago, well, this kind of coordinated stuff should be done by the county. Well, they are doing stuff. Next slide, please. So we do have challenges, however. Aggressive and dishonest sales tactics for energy providers, getting the attention of landlords and HOAs and business owners, trying to get into the township and borough media streams has been a challenge. Support from elected officials has been gracious, but very few questions come to us about engaging with the community on energy topics. Next slide, please. So let's get right into it. These are opportunities that I want to press upon you guys. Opportunities to engage, right? I want to ask you guys: is action on climate still a priority for Westchester? Right? If it's not, I'd be happy to use my. It's important to me, but I'd be happy to help Meadowborough, Phoenixville, and anybody else that wants to do this. I know we lost a lot of mojo in 2020 for very understandable reasons, but now it's time to step up, especially with the federal action and severe weather that's put climate change in the news. So here now, I kind of want to switch focus. You all got this memo from the SAC. Did you get a chance to look at it? So I just want to talk about that for a minute. So jumping right into the asks. And the asks are to earmark some funds for 2023 budget for community engagement. I don't want to talk about specific proposals right now, but we can work on either collaborating with the other municipalities or doing stuff as the borough. We could work on finding some grants, some state or federal grants, but likely there'll be matching requirements. So I think it's important to put stuff. I made up a number. I'm saying $20,000, and there's some great stuff we could do with that. And then other stuff that I think just personal engagement from the elected officials. We should add the Clean Energy Future logo to the Westchester Facebook page. I mean, branding is important. I think it should be on front of all the township and borough websites. The mayor and borough council should get involved and make a short video, have an interview with local media, make a press release, personal outreach to some big energy users like the hospital, Henderson High School, some of the big condos, the university and the county facilities have plans and they're executing them. And then finally, I just want to point to on this memo, there's a footnote at the bottom here. That has links to some other municipalities, other towns around the country that are doing big things. Ann Arbor, Michigan has a climate action village. They actually, tax their community to staff I think it's like a 10-person team that works on, getting transportation and EVs and all that kind of information in front of and options for the community. Hanover, New Hampshire has town hall meetings on energy hosted by professional PR people. Westchester County, New York has a community choice aggregation program to aggregate buying of renewable electricity for the community. So I'll pause there, get some feedback from you guys, and I just want to encourage everyone to step up and do this, or you can use their time to do another thing.
Yeah, I'm just curious regarding the EV ordinance, and just
Yeah, EV ready means for new construction, putting in the infrastructure, right?
that would be commercial.
Could be any new construction.
So that would be residential, only new, correct?
Correct. Well, I mean, yeah, it could be anything, but we'll see what the proposal says. Yeah, I would suggest first cut is new construction.
The council signed on the fossil fuel. Be fossil. It's about 2030. Does that have anything to do with the situation? And also, is there money still sitting in governments?
So, yes, this whole cabinet study and this community engagement, this whole project is about fulfilling our resolution of being 100% using 100% renewable electricity by 2035, heat and transportation 100% renewable by 2050. What was passed in 2017. Yeah. Yes, the COG has money allocated for energy use that was going to be used for the power purchase agreement. I'm not clear on how much it is, like $6,000 to $8,000. So there's a little bit there.
So the ask at all the different municipalities that we showed up here with the sheet. So I guess about 6 or 8 municipalities.
6.
Someone asking each one of the other 5.
I'm a little bit leading, but yes. We made the presentation and a similar ask to the COG and got blank stares. And so now we're going township to township and making personal pleas for engagement and consideration in the 2023 budget.
So what would be the minimum? Maximum's 20. That's the ask. Never get the rest of my ask. So what would be the minimum contribution to the kickstart?
Yeah, so it depends on what we want to do. If we want to buy some time on the digital billboards in the area, I mean, I think that's a few $1,000s. If we wanted to go big and hire a PR firm to do this professionally, I think we're not going to be able to do anything there short of $50,000, $60,000. So divide that by 6. I don't know. I think we're one of the bigger municipalities, so I think more than that. So I'm going to say at least 10.
Okay, thank you. Now, since we're not the biggest stands. Today we are roughly 20,000. Around we have another 17,000 part-time residents. Because the university super block doesn't contribute many as far as police, fire, border. So we're stuck covering like 17,000 10 months because of temporary. But I can see you report.
We'll do our best to try to coordinate and collaborate with the other municipalities. It hasn't gone well, right? And the borough is where everybody comes for dinner. So any signage, anything here is going to get in front of all those eyeballs.
We could put those signs on our big bellies because they have a spot for them and they need to be refreshed anyway.
Yep.
Because they have refreshed in a few years.
That's good proposal. Yeah, so we'll certainly work on a detailed proposal, but right now I'm just, consider putting some money so we know what to have to work with for 2023.
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate this scorecard. It's super helpful, super easy to. I guess like my first question was just for Monson, I guess. We talked about the EV ready ordinance. What does it mean for new construction to be solar ready? Specific.
Yeah, it's about roof load, being able to handle the weight of the panels. You might consider where a future solar panels would run the wires down the side of the building. What were the other things? Well,
ways and afterwards.
Now, is that, I mean, is that similar to, we define egress and orderly, like it doesn't necessarily mean that build like a new home and charge it's there, it's just, you know, easy. Is that the idea or that the part?
Depends on how progressive you want to be, right? If you want to say every new home in Westchester is going to have, you know, a plug this thing in. But it's certainly like 5 times cheaper to put that infrastructure in at that construction time rather than to retrofit.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's what it's. Also, yeah. Well, as well. Isn't that like true? So thank you. And then I guess my other question was about, in New Hampshire, about the PR firm. Like what have they accomplished in New Hampshire and how do you see, like how would you see those accomplishments in Westchester?
So for one thing, New Hampshire has this culture of having community town halls, in-person, big auditorium kind of thing to do that. And so they dedicate part of that time to community energy education. How would it work here? I think we could promote meetings here. We can promote meetings at, not necessarily meetings, but education at public events and on the ballots that are on this closed streets. I think that's a good opportunity. Digital communications, you know, just something. I mean, we've got so much good information on the website. Now we need kind of professional PR to drive people to it. That digital.
Yeah, thank you. Just to say, it's really helpful for me.
Good.
There's money sitting in, there's money for situations over there. How much? I don't remember. Did the borough contribute money to that position? Well, by the electricity or whatever it was, that's what it's for, right?
It was a separate energy fund that the cloud manages.
We contribute to that. Line item one.
Generally for boards and commissions, we keep that in one line item under the admin department. So for all the various boards that are, you know, borough run.
So we're trying to get at how much we need 21 or 22 to that cog.
As Mr. Metric said, we do, you know, pay to them. I don't have an amount, but I can certainly, you know, go back and look
I mean,
for that for you.
I didn't expect you to have it off the top of your head because it's a question why I would be brought up. So maybe we'll have.
Yeah, I did a presentation about our energy transition plan yesterday to 185 people in the Delaware Valley. So that's why the information is at the forefront of my mind. We paid $18,000 towards a cabinet study in 2019. And then since then we've contributed another $1,000, which we've been saying was earmarked for a power purchase agreement. I don't recall that specifically. And vetoed by one of the participating municipalities last year. Not intentionally, it was just the time it took derailed the whole initiative. My takeaway from that is I'm not really interested in working with other municipalities. I want to do what's best for the borough, regardless of who wants to come along with us at our pace. In other words, I think we could get that money back or funnel that money or request that the COG spend it on community education, because that is a huge part of our plan, but it doesn't really fit into what any of the municipalities do, and certainly don't do it well. It's something probably new, which is why Jim and his volunteers have taken it on versus municipalities. So I think that's an easy ask. The money's already out. It's no longer in our bank account. It's with the COG. I don't intend to go to the COG with any more requests for, joint energy planning. So we should either get it back or we should request that they spend what's left on this initiative.
Thank you. So what I heard was $19,000. We gave 18, we just contributed another 1,000. Great. So, maybe we should have management. He agrees, have management, talk to them and say, can we get a refund? Then we can use it immediately, waiting for. That's what Mr. Williams just said, that portion of it pretty hard to contribute. Sell apart, so that we can get a refund and then reestablish something.
Okay, but all you're gonna get is $1,000, right? The $18,000 went to Cadmus as part of their $70,000 bill.
I think we request that they spend in the 6.
I think we request that they spend the 6 and anything else that they have left that we paid that we don't, know about towards community education at minimum. If we want to contribute outside that, that's a question for you all to answer. But at a minimum, there's $6,000, which, and we kind of drove the bus in this whole initiative. So if myself and the Westchester Borough isn't going back to the COG for any other thing energy related, we did our planning exercise. That exercise has ended, and we have some ideas, and those ideas take money, and they have money left. And we can continue to do it, and everything Jim is discussing, it's not, there's no municipal boundaries to it. It's regional. So that money's there. It's sitting with a regional entity. That's an easy way to support this without spending any money.
I agree with that.
It's up, I agree with that.
Okay, $6,000 isn't gonna go very far. Yes. I also don't want it to be forgotten, my asks about personal engagement.
Oh, yeah, but it's a conversation that we had before you walked in the door. With the mindset, you have 20,000, it's six, and the commissions has more money that we could probably reallocate. That's not based on what Mr. Williams feels. He's our client as far as, to the envelope, what we should do. Stance. Position, but okay, great. That was the first thing in the room.
But no, I agree with what you're saying. It's not what.
I was assuming I was going to be able to propose how to use that 6K when I walked in here. I'm asking to.
That's not part of it. To be clear. Okay, that's good for us to know as well. That's a big piece.
Okay.
Awesome, thank you. Comments or questions? So. 4 things to adopt our MMO to the non-uniform benefit and the defined contribution.
Annual action. Suggest we do this. I think all we really do is something.
Any comments, questions? Yeah. Or I appreciate that. And then we just need to do our own. Very good. All right. We can go ahead and